We looked at building by building differences. We looked at within building differences. All right? We looked at, and I must admit, I was a bit hesitant on this one. They started pushing me to look at teachers. Okay? Achievement gaps by teachers. And I said, I'm not doing that without a union rep in the room. Okay? I'm just not going there. The politics of these issues get very, very thick. Okay? It's a small community. I live in this community. Okay? My kids go to school in this community. And I said, I'll be glad to do that. But we need union support in doing that. That never quite happened. All right? But we looked for about a year, at meeting after meeting after meeting, and finally said, okay, let's develop a model. And so we did this. We put together a model, and it took an extraordinary amount of work on behalf of a lot of people. And you can go find this report. It's on the Ithaca City School District webpage. Okay, there's actually 2 report cards on there. The first one we did almost on time. We were about 3 months late with the first one. Okay? And then we began working on the second one. But the trick with the second one was it had to incorporate the community feedback from the first one, which isn't a trick, that's how it should be. Okay? You lay out a report card, and we kept saying, well, there's flaws with this, there's limitations with this, there's mistakes in the data. And Jeff kept saying, I don't care, let's get it out there. And then when people complain about it, it gets their anger up, they get excited about it, we can then fix those things for the next year, and then fix them for the next year. All right? And so we did that. We published the first one, and a lot of feedback came in. A lot of people said, well, some people said, garbage in, garbage out. Meaning, they don't believe this stuff. Somebody else said, this is frightening. I had no idea that we had these gaps in this district. No idea. We did not break it up, just so you know, we did not break it up by schools. There was a decision just to keep all the district data aggregated at the district level. But we did the different test scores, we did trends over time, and we did graduation rates and dropouts and that kind of thing. So the feedback was coming in, and then we got a lot of feedback from rural parents. They said, we're nowhere in here. Our kids are not all served by this district. Our kids go to school out in these little rural, there's 2 rural elementary schools. Remember I said there was 8 elementary schools in town. Okay? And I presume some of you will get to all these different elementary schools. There's 2 very rural ones. Okay? There's one, and I excuse my language on this one, but stereotypically it's considered the urban school. Okay? It's got the highest proportion of Black and Hispanic kids. So people refer to it as kind of the urban school. Okay, it's Beverly J. Martin. Enfield is quite rural. Caroline's quite rural. And the others are, and Northeast is quite big, has a lot of international students. The folks who send their kids there call it a very multicultural school. And it is, in a true multicultural sense, but it's because it's sons and daughters of graduate students and sons and daughters of faculty and so forth. And so it's a different kind of diversity in that school. And then there's some other very small schools which are typically serve the Cornell faculty and so forth. So we did this, and the rural community said, wait a minute, we're not represented at all in here. It looks as if our kids are doing fine because they're lumped in with all these other white kids. And we said, guilty as charged, you're right. So we went through a process to fine-tune our data analysis for all the groups, but added an extra group, the rural kids. Because it was very well documented across virtually any measure, and across time, that the gaps were not really closing for the Hispanics, for Blacks, and so forth. The Native American population is very small, but they were clustered in with these groups. But the rural whites were not. So in year 2, and this report took us 6 months longer than we'd expected, and it wasn't posted till, it was about 6 months late. And sure enough, when the results came in from that, we did all our work on that, you get this whole other group of the parents who say, now we have the evidence that our kids are not being served well in these schools. And so you got a lot of evidence on behalf of minority parents, a lot of evidence on behalf of poor parents, and a lot of evidence now on behalf of rural parents that the school district isn't getting it done for them. Okay? And so in a school district, that if you go back to 1999 and look at these aggregate numbers, everything looked pretty good. Looked pretty good. Through NCLB, through the local community work, very, very clear these achievement gaps are quite distinct. But now they're measured. And so now we can know if we're making progress. And I might add, when we started doing this, when the board adopted that goal, in my mind, with my access to the board, my access to the superintendent, my access to the district staff developer, my access to different principals, which isn't, I don't hang out with them every day, but I have a fair amount of interaction with them. There's been a fairly extraordinary amount of effort, and I think truly a real serious effort to work on staff development, to get teachers aware of these issues. And not to say, these kids can't do it. Now with $1 million in a million years, these kids can't do it. Because as long as the teachers have that attitude, as long as the tutors have that attitude, kids are not going to succeed. Kids know that. Kids are very smart about who cares about them and who doesn't. Okay, it's one thing we know about highly successful schools who serve traditionally underperforming students. And there's a lot of great models around the country for this. Okay? Every kid knows, they don't think, they know that there are adults in that building who care about them and know they can succeed. And they'll tell you that. Versus the kids we hear in this community who say these teachers don't care about me. Why should I work hard? They don't care about me. Why should I do my homework? Why should I come to class on time? Okay? So part of this is a trust. Part of this is an engagement. And that's where you guys come in. Okay? You're developing some trust. Okay, you've got to earn that trust. You're not granted that trust when you sit down with your students. You've got to earn that trust. And you've got to believe in them. And as more and more teachers believe, as more and more administrators believe, as more and more community members believe, because there's still folks in this community, and I would argue there's still faculty on this campus. Now, if you agree or disagree, but there's faculty on this campus who say, there's no way, this is a foolhardy goal to eliminate the achievement gap. That's silly. Silly, it's never going to happen. And my hope is that none of us think that's silly. This is why we're here. And it can be done. And it's been shown to be done all over the place. Okay? But with the resources in this community, the resources of Cornell University, it takes a commitment. And so we started with the conversation about the state and the state changing the rules, what it takes to graduate from high school. Some people criticize that, saying that's just foolish. Well, is it? A lot of people criticize the feds for NCLB. There's a lot of provisions. It's a 1,200-page law. People get hung up with the testing. But with that testing, well, again, it's not federal testing. It's just them requiring states to engage in testing. They require the disaggregation of data. And the disaggregation of data is now happening everywhere. You can go to any single school district in the country. There's some websites I can be more than happy to share with you. You can look up your own school district, your own high school, and look at the achievement gaps, okay, as reported by NCLB. You'll find them. All right. And a lot of people criticize that, saying it's just, I've heard people say weighing the cow over and over doesn't make the cow better. You gotta think about that analogy a little bit. Well, if you're not weighing the cow, how do you know if the cow's getting better or worse, being healthier or more ill? And so part of the idea that some of us believe in, and I'm not saying I speak for everybody here, is that by constant assessment and very public display of this data, you put a lot of pressure on the community to say, is that the kind of school district we want? Is that who we are? And then it makes the school district decide. It makes the community decide. Some communities may say, yeah, not with $1 million in a million years, these kids aren't going to win. And last quick story. Guidance counselor. And most high school guidance counselors in high schools such as Ithaca High, and there's a million, these large comprehensive high schools, their job predominantly is college applications. There's all their scheduling, and there's some counseling that goes on. But more and more and more with the pressure for college, it's all about college applications. And so somebody asked this guidance counselor, why is it that you're only working with 200 kids? What about these other 120? Well, they haven't asked me about college. It's not my job to convince them to go to college. If they want to go, I'll help them. But if they don't come to me, they don't want to go, then I'm not going to deal with them. Now think about that. From the perspective of a teacher, of a tutor, of a student, and of a guidance counselor.